Hi, welcome to this segment of Badges. Dave Irucci is still out on assignment. Dave, hurry up and come back soon. Paul and Barbara are sick and tired of seeing me. With me in this studio for this segment, I have Sergeant Steve Zanella and Patrolman Dave Wheeler from the Ashland Police Department. For those viewers who saw our first segment about the wildlife in Ashland, this segment will focus on coyotes, spiders, and snakes. Three favorite topics of mine. I'm sure they are of yours. What we'd like to do today is talk about coyotes, and I know that the last segment we were just beginning to talk about coyotes, and I'll turn it over to Sergeant Steve Zanella. Steve, what can you tell me about coyotes that maybe we need to clear up some of the fallacies that are out there about coyotes and the dangerousness of them?
Okay, well, Joe, they do in fact exist, and through some of my research I found that even my own beliefs were misgotten. Coyotes are a very elusive type of an animal, and they're really not a danger as I first thought until I started to do some research on them. We see more and more of them in our environment today due to the building that's going on in Ashland and all the surrounding communities. They're a dog type animal of average height and weight to a medium or small sized dog. The average coyote in this area could reach as much as 50 pounds. The average weight of a female medium-sized male is approximately 30 pounds, and they can be as little as 20 pounds. I think we're seeing more of them, especially like on patrol in the early morning hours. You know, I've seen more of them. We've had a couple of incidents where they've been run over by cars, and you know, they are in fact in the area.
One of the questions I would have to ask is that would people who have domestic pets, would they need to worry about coyotes, you know, prowling for food? Would they go after a cat or a dog or something smaller than they are, like a smaller house pet?
Yeah, not as a normal act. They are omnivorous, which means they eat fruits and vegetables as well as meat, which allows them to sustain any type of environment, including living in an urban area, which we have here. They do, in fact, and they have been known to go after smaller animals, such as puppies, kittens. We have what they call feral cats, which are wild cats in the area. And when the coyotes are in the area, you won't see as many little foxes, or I mean, not foxes, but squirrels, rabbits, and kittens. We did have one incident up on Olive Street where there was a young man, he had his puppy on a leash or on a run in the backyard, when in fact a quite large coyote, probably about 50 pounds, did come out in the middle of the afternoon and try to attack the puppy. Was not successful. But I think that's kind of rare. Where they eat just about anything, and their food sources, and especially in this area, are there's enough food. You may have some concerns with that, but not a lot. Yeah.
What would happen? I know a lot of people now, the summertime's coming, fastly approaching, and people like to take walks during the state parks, so on and so forth, out maybe in the wooded paths that we have in and around Ashland. If they come upon a coyote, what should they do? Would there something, rule of thumb, that they should do?
Well, first of all, coyotes within their own family structure are very sociable. The fallacy was that they hunted in packs like wolves. They do not hunt in packs. They do not live in packs. If you were fortunate enough to see a coyote, or even a group of them, you'd be able to identify that that's a family structure. They are monogamous. They mate for life unless one of the mate is killed or destroyed, and then they will find another mate. They are very into their young. An average pack can be as few as 3 pups, as many as 13, which is uncommon. They have some keen sense of smell, sight, and hearing, and they in fact do not like human beings. They do like their own animal types. They don't like domestic dogs or domestic animals that are larger than them. So sighting of a coyote is very rare. And if you do, in fact, are fortunate enough to sight a coyote, they're most often to be going off in a different direction. Their sense of smell and hearing and sight are so great that they can most often detect your presence way before you know they're there. As much as a mile away, their sense of hearing is so great that in a mile distance, they can key in on an object within 25 feet. That's
pretty good.
Quite hearing.
That's
so
good.
The chances of coming across a coyote are very rare. Do they pose a danger or a threat? Most definitely not. Like I said, if you in fact were attempt to capture one, or we've had incidents where they'll go into a garage foraging for garbage. If you in fact, like any animal, even a domestic animal, you trap them, they may attempt to escape, and in doing so they may pose a threat or a danger. But other than that, you'd be fortunate to see one. You know, and if you do see them, enjoy them, because that's a rare commodity that you do in fact see them.
Now, can you hear them at night?
Oh, most definitely. Even the most veteran hunter, such as Dave, and I like to consider myself one, the crying of the pups, especially at feeding time, is a very shriek cry, and the crying of the adults during the night will make your hair stand up on end. It gives you goosebumps.
Does it sound like the prairie dogs out west, or is it something
The
different?
pups do. The pups sound like a prairie dog, just a dog, just a little chip, 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 but it's in unison. Like I say, they can have as little as 3 pups and as many as 13. So they get quite loud. But the parents calling back to each other is probably a yip or a howl that would, you definitely
Detect
take
it.
notice of it, yeah.
That's good. Is there anything else we should need to be aware of with coyotes? I think we've already talked about, they're already here, the danger. We sort of said something about watching out for small pets. Would we be concerned about rabies? I know the last segment we talked about, you know, raccoons and some of the other animals out there maybe being rabid and stuff. Excuse me, would we have to worry about coyotes being rabid at this point in time during the summer?
Well, I thought so. Well, most wild animals can and do pick up diseases, including the coyote. What's unique about the coyote, it has such a unique and advanced immune system that they very seldom die from diseases. But, you know, due to the fact that they eat most carrion, rotten meat, small animals such as mice, frogs, what have you, they can in fact pick up diseases in their saliva and on their skin. And the chance of running into a coyote is probably 1 in 1,000. And the chance of one biting you or interacting with you is probably 1 in 1,000,000. But if in fact that did happen, there might be some concern for the rabies issue, yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. I know my only experience with a coyote was 2 summers ago. We have a large area in the backyard where I put all my grass clippings right out in the sun. And I thought it was a dog spread late eagle in the midday sun. And when I go down to look at it, and I got closer and closer, it sat itself up and it's propped its ears, and then I realized that that was not a dog, and nor was it a fox, so I would have to assume that it was a coyote. And as soon as it saw me, it took right off into the woods.
Yeah,
Didn't hang around.
If you're out there and you're looking, you know, you'd be walking through the woods, and like I say, the chance of encountering a coyote is very rare. Most of the time we encounter if we stay on a stand somewhere and we're very quiet and we're waiting for a deer or other animal to come by, then you'll by chance see a coyote. And if you do see him and you don't know how to identify him, the first thing that you can look for, and a domestic dog or an animal will walk with its tail flipping and flopping. A coyote will walk with its tail crouched underneath it. It has a high haunch in the back and usually a little lower in the front. But other than that, it looks like some kind of a mixed breed of dog.
That's good to know. So next time I see something walking like that, I'll have to assume it's a coyote.
Tuck tail, it's a coyote.
Tuck tail's a coyote. Or not a dog that just got petrified or something. Well, this is the segment that we're going to be talking about that I'm sure that a lot of people who have squirmish stomachs and minds or fears may want to go to the refrigerator right now and get something to eat, turn on the radio. No, stay for it, because maybe some of your fears and the phobias that you have about spiders and snakes may be changed. And we'll talk to Dave. You can talk to us about some of the spiders and some of the things that may be around here with respect to spiders. Can you elaborate on what we have for spiders?
Well, basically, a lot of the spiders you have around the house, the yard, and that type of thing, they're nothing you have to be concerned about. Even some of your very large ones, you don't even really have to be concerned about those. I had one was about this big on my wall one time. It was just a big brown wolf spider. Basically, all spiders are poisonous, but they're only poisonous to the prey species they chase down, like other insects and smaller things like that they eat. The poison is nowhere near toxic enough for a human. However, we do have 2 spiders that are dangerous. I happen to bring pictures of them here that are native to this area, but they are pretty much rare. One of them I'm sure a lot of you have heard of is the black widow spider. I don't know if you can zoom in on this, but we have a picture of him here. Okay, and that's a 25-cent piece, a quarter. It's there for scale, so you can kind of get an idea how big this thing is. It's not very big. He's not your biggest spider you'll see, and he's not your smallest. The way you can identify him, a black widow, is they have that almost perfectly round abdomen section in the back. And as you can notice on this one, this is the bottom of the spider. Okay, the bottom has what they call an hourglass picture. And that hourglass is pretty much bright red. Okay, so it's kind of easy to identify him from the bottom and that part of him. The black widow spider, his poison is pretty much can be toxic to humans. The statistics are only about 5% of humans that have ever been bitten by a black widow spider have actually died. However, the poison is toxic enough that you'd become very sick. It wouldn't be a pleasurable experience. You'd be shortness of breath, type of things associated with a lot of your snake bites at the same time. The other one that a lot of experts consider even more dangerous than the black widow, even though no one's known to have died from this spider, and this one probably is a little bit more common, only it still is a rare spider. This one is called the brown recluse. I also drew a little picture of him. And he's almost the same size as the black widow. As you can see, I got a 25-cent quarter piece there for scale, so you can get an idea about how big they are. Another unique identifying characteristic of this species is they carry a guitar on their back. Not that they can play it, but if you notice, just not on the big abdomen section like the black widow, but right on the back of this one, he's got a design that looks just like a guitar, if you can kind of see it there. Also, this one, he has more of an elongated abdomen section. And he has kind of like 2 little feelers near where his fangs would be on the front. Now, the danger from this spider, the brown recluse, is when you get bit by one of these spiders, it creates, you'll be able to probably tell the little wound mark, but in a few days, you wouldn't notice anything of it, but you'd get this big black scab starting to appear there. And you might not think nothing of that, but this scab, what it's going to do is going to keep growing and growing and growing over a 2-month period. It's going to get big. It's probably going to get bigger than $50. Okay? What it's doing, it's almost like it's an acid that's eating away at your arm. So it's
an acid pocket, basically? That's what it is?
It just continues a sloughing off and scabbing type of a wound. Festering and sloughing off. And unfortunately, a lot of times you're going to need skin grafts to close this up by the time it runs its course. Some people have become sick from it. You're probably going to need hospitalization near the end of this. But unlike the black widow, most people would. I've never known anybody that was ever killed by one of these.
How common are these, Dave? Is that something we should be concerned with?
None of these are very common. This species has actually only been identified in probably half of the states in the United States, and unfortunately, they've been found here in Massachusetts. Now, with both of these species, the black widow and the brown recluse, they're found in different areas of your home area. These are mostly an outdoor spider. The black widow, he's mostly found in wood piles and piles of sticks and things like that where you can get underneath. The web these things spin is a very unique type of a web. If you've ever seen the web of a black widow spider, it's all strings going in all different directions. There's
no rhyme or reason.
Yeah, there's no rhyme or reason of his web. It looks like a very strange web. The strands seem much thicker than the web of a regular spider or any other spider web you've seen. And this spider may be at any different location in that web. So old wood piles and piles of sticks and brush piles and things like that are the place you're going to find him mostly, which usually isn't a problem for most people. But however, our friend the brown recluse, he lives right with us in our house. He doesn't like it outside. He wants to be inside with you. A good place you can find these things is in dark corners, okay, in attics, anything that's up in your attic. A favorite place they like to go is inside old clothes, okay? If you got any clothes that were stored up in an attic, a good rule of thumb before you go to put them on, they could be in the sleeve of the shirt. You put an old shirt on, an old coat, they can hide in the sleeve of that garment, and that's when you're going to be bitten.
So shake it out first.
Shake them out, shake any old clothes out. If you can find the spider, if you know you were bitten, it's a good idea to try to find the spider and bring it to the hospital with you. Again, both of these species of spiders are rare, even though they're here. They are very rare in Massachusetts, and your chances are not too good of encountering one.
So the wood spider, that would be the most common one around here, the brown wood spider?
Yeah, there's wood spiders, wolf spiders, a lot of your brown trapdoor spiders and the type you see in your house. Most of those, and they might look scary, and a lot of them are bigger than these. I mean, they're not anything you have to worry about. I mean, they might look scary, but if you get bit by them, it's not going to bother you. Again, it's easy to identify these two. Again, the black widow has the hourglass on the bottom side of him, and it's bright red. And he's glistening black in color. The brown recluse is just like his name implies. He's brown, and he has more of an elongated abdomen, and he has a little bit bigger thoracic section where he has that diagram of like a guitar on it, a guitar or violin. His nickname is called the fiddleback also. And that's a quarter beside him again for scale, so he's pretty much with his legs spread out even. He's only a little bit bigger than a quarter. We have a lot of bigger spiders in the state, but they aren't as dangerous.
But Dave, when I was growing up, I think we talked about this before, I used to go out in the garden, especially pick raspberries, and we used to run into this spider that looked like the black widow, but it had a yellow mark on its back.
Yeah.
And we always, as kids, we always thought that that was the black widow spider. I don't see too many more of those.
Unfortunately, those are pretty much becoming extinct.
Extinct?
Like a lot of the species around there. That was known as what they call the golden garden spider or the golden orb spider. Those look pretty dangerous. They come in those big symmetrical webs
yeah.
Right.
with the lines going in, and the webs can be about this big, and the spider can be bigger than these. They can be good size.
Very intimidating.
Right, very intimidating. You could never walk through a field of goldenrod without having them everywhere.
Yeah,
They're all over your gardens. I haven't seen one of those in 5 years.
What's killing them off?
Believe that it's the way the atmosphere is now, the pollutants in the air,
Pesticides as well?
pesticides, a lot of these species, and you like to consider those like a watchdog species, sort of like amphibians in the environment. A watchdog species is a species that lives somewhat of a delicate existence. They have to have, their circumstances for life have to be pretty much just so. They can't tolerate a lot of either ends of the spectrum. Another common animal, it's not really in line with this, but the common garden toad. Garden toads are on the way out. People don't even realize this, but common species that they've seen around their homes are on the way out. And the common toad is one of them.
That's one of the reasons we're bringing this up, to make people more aware of some of the reptiles and amphibians and animals in there that live right in our community. And
So they need to
most
be
of them
aware of
we don't have to fear, but we can enjoy and respect and allow them to live. I know as a child, unfortunately, we used to try to kill those spiders, but they were so common. Like Dave said, we'd be picking raspberries and they'd be all over us. Today, like I said, we talked about this before, I haven't seen them for years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Didn't know that. Didn't know that. Well, we've come to the final topic.
The squeamish topic.
Which already,
My mother's favorite
my
topic.
back is starting to squeal already. I think I'll excuse myself from the table when we talk about this. No, I have to get over this phobia, and that's the snakes. And I'm sure a lot of us out there have that fear about snakes. And I don't know, someone told me a long time ago that you can be born with that fear. It can be passed on from your mother or whatever. I don't know about that. Maybe it's true, I don't know. But I've never had to deal with a snake, but I was petrified of them, even not knowing what they were.
Yeah.
I was afraid of them, so maybe there is some truth to that. We do have a lot of snakes here, and from past experiences, past weekend, fixing my wood pile. I think I was telling you this morning
Right.
that the number of snakes that my son and I saw in that wood pile was enough that the wood pile is still there. I'm not going to work on it until the dead of winter, until those snakes are long gone. But there was one of them, and again, it was a different snake. I know garter snakes and little black snakes with the orange on them, but this was definitely a different color snake, and it was multicolored brown, and it had like a moth design to the back of it, to its skin, and it was totally different. And it was about good size thickness.
It sounds like you're
good
describing
thickness.
the eastern water snake.
But it was,
They
and
come in
whether
variations of that same color. Some
whether
very
it's dangerous
dark,
or not, I don't
some
know.
lighter. It's basically a harmless snake, but it puts on one heck of a show.
well, let's put it this way: all
And
it had
does
to do was
bite.
look at me.
He
All it
bites,
had to
but
do
he's
was
not
look at me.
considered poisonous.
Well, regards to some of the myths that are prevalent about snakes, I mean, you know, there's the common milk snake, and most people think that it used to milk cows, and it's untrue. Snakes that hypnotize people and animals, that they do any number of things. They're all untrue, and because of the phobias and because of the fact that they know very little or nothing about these animals, these reptiles, these myths have come to play. Actually, in this area, Joe, we only have 14 different types of snakes, and out of the 14, there's only 2 that are poisonous. Worldwide, out of all the snakes in the world, and I don't know exactly how many, there's only 10% of them that are poisonous. The 2 that we have to be concerned with as far as poisonous snakes in the New England area is the rattlesnake, the timber rattler, and the copperhead. And I do have a picture of both of them. And the fact that we have to be concerned is only that they live in our community. Again, like the coyotes, the chance of encountering are far and few between, because they are an antisocial animal, reptile. I don't know if we can get a picture of it.
You know, maybe Paul can superimpose his pictures later on, but we can try to zoom in.
Okay,
right
I'll
now.
just talk briefly about the copperhead. Various gold in color, but it does have a very wide head, very threatening looking. And it's really not that large. It can attain a total length of 53 inches. It can be as small as 24. That sounds large, but the rat snake, the black rat snake, can attain a length of 8 feet.
I'm out of here.
8 feet. Dave and I went to a reptile class, and we had the opportunity to handle some of these snakes. And both of us were kind of reluctant to do it, but to handle what was a 10-foot python that we
Oh, yeah, yeah.
that we handled, and the diameter is like this, and you know, there's 3 or 4 of us holding this thing that we thought could turn around and eat any one of us at any time, which was totally untrue.
I'm glad you went and not me.
But the copperhead, it's mostly found around water, and it's very antisocial. And most snakes, you know, if you encounter snakes today, they're mostly, you know, like you in this wood pile, they're taken off. They're antisocial, and they live in various areas because of some of their habitats.
What would be some of the most common ones so that people, like myself, I mean, if we came across one unexpectedly, I mean, I think that's the #1 thing. You don't expect to see it there, and then the next thing you know, you see this little thing squirreling around, and it catches your attention, and you startle yourself. And I think maybe that may be part of the fear that a lot of people have about it, is that you don't expect to see one, and then all of a sudden there it is. It's right there because
Kind of startles you.
it does startle you.
Well, you know, unfortunately, a lot of the snakes that are native to our area are becoming endangered, and they are protected, and they are on an endangered species list. The common garter snake, or the eastern ribbon snake, which we have a picture of here, most of us can identify. This little ribbon snake is a very fast, very thin type of reptile, and when you see it, it's usually moving away from you. Same with the garter snake. And the reason you'd see more of these is because they live around urban areas. They like field mice and bugs and insects, and they're what you call a cold-blooded animal. They can't regulate their temperature by sweating and what have you. So they seek heat from different forms to lay in the rocks. Very common. We have them at my house. They'll lay out on the sidewalk, or they'll lay out on the driveway. And that's when, unfortunately, you'll run over them or you'll run into them. And they just move along their own way. You know, most people think that snakes are vicious and dangerous. Well, if you put them on a category in conjunction with an animal, I think they're right up there with the viciousness of a chipmunk. And they've said that many times in the books that I've been able to read. And basically, the only snakes that have a set of teeth that would even inflict any type of danger to you or any type of intrusion are your poisonous snakes. And they have those so that they can inject the venom into their prey. And even with the rattlesnake and the copperhead, their venom is really not any danger to us. It'll make you sick, uncomfortable, and of course, given your state of physical well-being, you know, could be fatal, but not very often. Actually, the chance of you encountering one of these snakes is almost nil. Almost nil.
Now, Dave, I think you were telling me the other day that if a garden snake bites you, it won't release its bite. Which one was the one that we were talking about the other day?
Well, a lot of times, I remember when we were kids, we'd dare each other to let a garter snake hang on your finger, and it just seems to want to hang on. And what the non-poisonous snakes do, sometimes they have like rows of teeth, and they have a kind of a motion like this to try to pull in their prey. They just like little rows of sharp, nothing more than like little sharp edges facing backwards. And what they're trying to do is trying to pull their prey in.
So they could pull your whole finger in,
Yeah,
if you allowed it to.
We've watched them do that, and they almost never even broke the skin. Of course, if you get one big enough, then his little sharp teeth are a little bit bigger, so he probably could break the skin.
Could.
But then that's not a wise thing to do anyway, because I mean, if he's just eating a mouse or something, and you could get some germs on there, and it's not good to have them play with their mouth like that.
One final thing with snakes, we have the natural snakes that are out there, but now that people are buying snakes as pets, we have different other pets that we may have to be concerned about, maybe pythons or Burmese boas, and they've been known to get away from their owners. I'm not too sure if we have anything on that, but I do know that there's been occasions at several different locations in town where all of a sudden they've shown up out of the clear blue, and I can assure you that I had to go on one of those calls, and I stayed in the car. Yeah, I was useless. I mean, there was no way that I was going to get out and try to deal with this python that was out there.
Well, that's a good point, Joe, because one of the reasons that Dave and I did get into this and take this special course is there's a Massachusetts Endangered Species Act that was passed many years ago that incorporated some of these issues. The pythons, boa constrictors, and stuff that you see that they're now selling at most stores and what have you as pets have been severely regulated, and a lot of the sales and keeping and raising of these animals are very limited and restricted.
Okay.
Just in probably, we have a few minutes left.
Yeah, 2 minutes left. So
in closing, dealing with snakes, it's not illegal to kill your household common snake, but there are certain species that are protected, such as your timber rattler, copperhead, your eastern hognose snake, your black rat snake, which is your large one, and the worm snake, which is common. The thing is, there's nothing to fear. You shouldn't really kill them. It's kind of live and let live philosophy.
Well, I would assume that if anybody has any questions about these snakes or any other snakes, that they can give you a call at the police station.
Oh, sure.
And guys, I want to thank you. This was an informative two-segment program. Steve, thank you very much.
Thanks for having us, sir.
Dave, thank you very much. And for everybody out there in cable land, this has been Badges, and we hope you learned something. You learned that I'm petrified of snakes, so please bear with me. And we have 3 new camera operators. If we have time, I'd like to introduce them. They are Laurie Zanella on camera 3, and Mario Muto on camera 1, and Ryan Mills on camera 2. And we want to thank them very much for volunteering their time this morning and making Badges a success. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. Dave, come on back.